In the last section, we went through the process of designing the different reducers inside our application, and we ended up deciding on having two separate reducers. A reducer that's going to return our list of libraries to show to the user, and a selection reducer, which is going to keep track of the currently expanded or kind of selected reducer or library, So in this section, we're going to work on the design of our library reducer. So we need to create a new reducer, and it should always return a very static list of libraries to show to our user. Okay, so that's our goal. I'm going to flip back over to our reducers index.js file. Remember, inside of here right now, we've got that single dummy reducer. By convention, we usually locate one reducer in one file, so like a one-to-one mapping, just the same way as we have with our components. So inside of my reducers directory, I will make a new file that is going to house all the code having to do with our library reducer. So I will make a new file in the reducers folder, and I'm going to call it libraryreducer.js. And then inside of here, for right now, I'm just going to put in some boilerplate. So a very, again, simple reducer. Whenever it runs, it will always return an array. And I'm going to flip back over to the index.js file, and I'm going to wire it up to the rest of my application here. So remember the very overriding theme of Redux, nothing is done automatically for you, right? Like just making a function inside of a file called library reducer does not do anything. We have to very explicitly wire it up, okay? So inside of this index.js file, I will import library reducer from library reducer. And then instead of using a very simple dummy function right here, we will say library reducer. Okay, so just as a quick reminder, and we are going to just really, I'm going to really drive this home, next point home to you in the coming sections here, because it's one of the, what I think is the most confusing points of Redux, and maybe because I'm going to make such a big deal about it, maybe it won't be quite as confusing, but whatever, let's just go through it. We have said many times that reducers produce our application state, right? A reducer runs, it returns a value, and boom, that is our application state. Now we might have many different reducers inside of our application, and we need to somehow get them all to work together properly. And so that's why we introduced this combine reducers call right here. I said this is a thing that makes multiple reducers work together nicely. So the thing that I really want to point out to you here, and again I will just harp on this repeatedly, we now have one reducer called the library reducer. Inside of my combine reducers call, I assigned this reducer to a key called libraries. Okay, libraries right here. Like super special note, like just stare at that word, libraries. Because I assigned the library reducer to this libraries key right now, if I ever console log my state object, like console log store.getState, which we had done several times previously, I would expect the response to be, or the result, the console log to be libraries is an empty array. Okay, so our library reducer right now always returns an empty array, and because I assigned that reducer to a key of libraries, my application state will now be an object that has a key libraries with a value of whatever got returned from that reducer. So again, like the whole point here is, because I assigned the library reducer to the libraries key, my application state has a key of libraries. That's it. That's it. I know a lot of talking just to convey that point, but again, this is something that I have found can be very, very confusing. And once we start making use of our state object in practice, again, I will come back and harp on this some more, because I'm sure you love being lectured endlessly, right? All right, no, I'm just kidding. Okay, so here's our library reducer. Again, right now, very simple, very straightforward, not really doing anything, but we want it to return our list of libraries, like the list of all the data showed to our user. And we agreed, or maybe I just dictated, one or the other, that the data structure for this list of libraries should be an array of objects where each object represents one single library. So what I want to do now is I want to say, instead of returning just a completely empty array, I want to return a list of objects that is going to represent all the different libraries to show to the user. Okay, that's it. So rather than kind of, inside this reducer typing out all these different libraries to show to the user, just to keep this reducer nice and clean, I'm going to make a separate file to house this list of libraries because I expect there's going to be many of them that I want to show. So inside of my reducers directory, I'm going to make a new file called librarylist.json. Take special note of the file extension here. It is JSON, it is not JS. So this JSON file right here is going to be a dummy data file, like just going to have data. It is a JSON file, which means I should place JSON data in here. It is not a JavaScript file. I cannot locate JavaScript code inside of here. So I can place an array in here and then an object. And inside this object, I will put all the properties I need for my library. So again, keep in mind, this is JSON data. It is not JavaScript, so I do not have to use an export statement here at all. Just have to put JSON, that's it. Okay, now I have already created a big list of libraries that I am going to copy paste into this file right here. So I'm going to flip over to this code editor over here where I just have this data file already located, and I'm going to paste it all. And I'm doing this intentionally very quickly because I don't want you to have to go through all this typing of all these different libraries in here. So in the next section that you're going to see inside this course, you're going to have some amount, it's going to be basically like a text section, and it's going to have the contents of this file right here. So you can just go ahead, copy paste it, and paste it into this library.json file. One thing I want to point out here is that because it is a JSON file, all values or all string values, all text values have to be wrapped with double quotes. So absolutely feel free to change the value of any of these libraries, right? If you want to add some to the end of your list, or you want to use completely different titles or different descriptions, absolutely feel free to modify this as much as you want. Just make sure that any modifications you make, both the key and the value have to be wrapped with double quotes. So the last thing I'm going to do, and again, well, you know what, tell you what, how about let's take a quick pause. I'll let you copy paste this file over, and then we will actually make use of it inside this reducer. So again, let's take a quick break, copy paste the stuff in here, and we will return and make use of it.